2022 have a circle celebration honoring Emily Bobrow, Jake Mintz, and Nick Miller. My name is Jeremy Clack, and Rachel and I are thrilled to be your hosts tonight as we share our support of JDS and Jewish education. We'd like to start off by sincerely thanking everyone here tonight for your support of the Mayan annual campaign, of their special funds, and the Bonim Society members. The future of Jewish education is bright. I'm guessing that our JDS journey started much like many others. Our older son Dylan, who graduated in 2020, was finishing preschool, and we needed to make a decision about kindergarten. We lived close to the lower school and decided to pick school. We can't say that our enrollment decision was steeped in a comparative analysis between JDS and public education and other private school options, but the warmth and joy in the building was apparent and felt quite different from the public schools that Rachel and I experienced growing up. Plus, it didn't hurt that our nieces and nephews, who are more than 10 years older than both of our boys, had attended Jewish day schools in Chicago and Austin, Texas. And they all seemed to be turning out okay at that time. As a side note, one of those nephews is a teacher here at JDS. In case you're curious, no, it's not Mr. Miller. Nor is it Ms. Platt, who is in STEM education as well. Anyway, we decided that we'd give JDS, a try for a year and see how it turned out.
So 16 years, 2 kids, and just a few tuition dollars later, here we are. We never imagined that the JDS community would become our community and our foundation, and that our boys would be lifers. In less than 3 months, Ari is set to graduate with the class of 2023 and can't wait to go on the Israel capstone trip. Remembering back when the boys were at the lower school, we always looked forward to when the kids' classes would showcase what they'd been learning. Whether it was the Purim Spiel, the Passover Seder, the Wax Museum, the Science Fair, Arts Highlights, the Homophone Project, which we are still playing 16 years later. The list just goes on and on. Jeremy and I have always called them TRMs, or tuition reinforcement payments. But as we experienced all of those events, we also realized that school needed support beyond just our tuition dollars to support those learning activities, but also to be able to maintain the warmth and the joy that brought us here, and that we know is part of the whole child holistic education approach that JDS espouses. We couldn't have articulated that when we became part of the JDS community. As Jeremy said, our plan was 1 year. But many years later, when the mission, vision, and values of JDS and the profile of a graduate were reimagined, it actually was perfectly aligned what we had come to know about this school. We're proud of who our children and our children's friends have all become. They are confident, compassionate thinkers who engage with the world through Jewish values.
Both of our boys know how to think for themselves. They're able to process information, assess its meaning, understand its impact, and chart a course for themselves. How do we know this? Well, I will say that it's not from repeated attempts to have deep philosophical discussions at the dinner table. We're happy if we get 1 or 2 word answers. We learned this by reading their college essays. These essays provided us a window into how they see the world around them and reinforced that the critical thinking and writing skills they developed is a testament to the amazing, and I'm going to reinforce that, amazing teachers at JDS. We also feel an extraordinary connection to the school and to the community. While we will lose the daily connection to the school when Ari graduates, our connection to the community will continue. We give so others have the opportunities that Dylan and Ari did socially and educationally. We give because we believe in Jewish education. We give because we have received so much more from this community than we thought possible 16 years ago. Thank you again for your support of JDS and Jewish education.
And now, Without further ado, we are proud to present selections from this year's Joan and Marvin Rosenberg High School musical, Hello, Dolly. Just as our head of school circle celebration is back in person, so is the high school musical. And as the song tells us, Dolly is back and overjoyed and overcome. Dolly will never go away again. You can see Hello, Dolly here at the upper school on December 8th, 10th, and 11th, and tickets are available online. Hello, Dolly is the story of the energetic matchmaker Dolly, who has plans of her own to marry. This classic American musical comedy has starred Carol Channing, Ethel Merman, Pearl Bailey, Barbara Streisand, Bernadette Peters, and Bette Midler. But our cast is even more famous. So, here, somewhere.
They're coming.
Okay, they're coming. Here come Sherry Cohen, Nate Shimoni, Serena Gill, Simon Albert, and Ray Wasserstein.
Yes, New York, it's really us, Barnabas.
amazing performance. Sherry, Nate, Serena, Simon, Rayut, our players, our set people, everything, thank you to them. We also would like to extend one more time another mazel tov to our 3 honorees, Emily Bobrow, Jake Mintz, and Nick Miller, and also to thank our senior introducers, sorry, Daniela Abrams, Eitan Malkus, and Talia Sporkin, and also to thank alum and current parent, Aaron Brickman, who will be introducing our honorees tonight. And now, Mitch, we will turn the floor back to you.
Shafianu Vikimanu Vikiyanu Lasman Hazat. It is so great to be back together again. And by the way, at every first event that we're doing this year, I recite those words because we realize the richness of the community when we're all together. And so just listening to the students again and seeing your faces, your smiling faces, how exciting to all be together. So first of all, I want to thank Rachel and Jeremy. You spoke beautifully, and as you stole some of my thunder in terms of the graduates, but I think it is really apt that at an event where we want to recognize donors and supporters of the school, that the focus is on the graduates of the school and the accomplishments, because at the end of the day, all of the support that all of you give to the school, that is realized in our graduates and the tremendous work that they do, and really how they're bringing Jewish values to whatever they do in the world. So you captured that beautifully, so thank you. So tonight's event is really to thank all of you, to thank you for your sincere commitment to the school. All of you are significant donors to the school, and I know you give because you care deeply about our mission and about the future of the school. Your support of the Maayan campaign is so significant. Maayan is really the backbone of the school's philanthropic program, and the gifts that you give to the school really enable us to be an outstanding educational institution. Some of you here have also given major gifts for special events. You've donated planned gifts, and you've also given to the endowment campaign. So we want to thank you and wish you toda rabah. Those of you who might be thinking about creating a permanent legacy at the school, Sharon and I are available to talk to if you'd like to talk about joining the Bonim Society. The Society proudly celebrates donors who have provided for JDS and Jewish education through a permanent endowment or a planned gift in a will, trust, or IRA, or other estate planning tool. And this group is increasingly important to the school, particularly as we think about the long-term future and sustainability of the school. So those of you who are already members of the Bonim Society, we can't thank you enough. And if you're not, we'd love to talk to you about that. So I have the pleasure of getting to share with you a little bit some of the highlights of things that are going on currently at the school. This year we've chosen the theme Thriving as our school-wide learning theme, and so everything I'm going to share sort of falls under this category of how is JDS thriving today? So we have some very large school-wide initiatives. One thing that we started this year, which I think really highlights the close-knit community, is we had an event called Ignite the Night, our first kind of parent event where we brought everyone together. We had about 400 parents in this building. If you walked in the door, if you were not here, you would not recognize the school. It was beautiful, there was incredible food. We really came together to celebrate our community after a couple of really difficult years when learning was going on in our community, but our community wasn't able to come together. So we had a wonderful, wonderful evening. As we emerge from the pandemic, one of the things that we're thinking about is how can students thrive? And we're very fortunate in our school. Students, when we look at different assessments, have not had learning loss, but the area that we are concerned about is health and wellness. How are they going to emerge from the pandemic? And so we have launched a number of initiatives. Two that I want to share with you tonight. At the lower school, we started a parenting resource center to really help parents in the complex task of raising their children. And we believe JDS has a lot to offer, both Jewish wisdom on that, but as educators. And that's a program that's open not just to our parents in the school, but to the entire community. And it's a way of leveraging the expertise in the school to support the entire community. At the upper school, we've started a health and wellness center, and we've gotten off to a great start. We envision a center where we support each and every one of the students in the school, and we actually run retreats at the school for the students so that they can really thrive emotionally and socially. If you haven't been following along, global educational travel experiences have started again, and we're super excited about those. Last year, our Philadelphia trip for the 5th grade went again, and that's a super exciting trip that's connected to studying American history in the 5th grade. Our 8th grade capstone civil rights journey to Atlanta and Montgomery went last year and will go again this year. That's an opportunity where the students can connect their study of the civil rights movement and the role that Jews played in the civil rights movement in this country and go to the places where it actually happened. And then we had, for the first time in 3 years, our high school Spanish language culture and immersion trip went to Argentina this past summer. They had an incredible experience, and they engaged with the Jewish community in Buenos Aires. So they were able to visit their peers who were at schools there. They were able to learn about the community there, and they were able to use the Spanish that they have. We're planning for next year, this coming June, the first time ever, an Arabic language trip to Morocco. And the students are going to get to use the Arabic that they learn here at JDS, but they're also going to be able to study the really, really rich Jewish history in Morocco. So we're super excited about that. And then, of course, our 12th grade senior capstone trip, the Irene and Daniel Sipkin's senior Israel capstone trip. We have gone actually the last 3 years, but 1 year was cut short. Another year, we only went for 2 months, and last year we were able to go for the full amount, but we weren't able to go to Eastern Europe. This coming February, when our 12th graders go, they're going to have the entire experience again, so we're super excited about that. We started a new program here, a partnership with Bishop McNamara High School. If you're not familiar with that high school, they are 9th through 12th grade high school in Prince George's County. About 90% of their student body are students of color, and so we've started an exchange program with them. So we're exchanging or looking at peer relationships, their faculty to our faculty, learning about how you teach in different communities. And then earlier this year, we had a group of about 20 JDS students, leaders in our community, go to Bishop McNamara High School and meet with 20 of their students. And we talked a little bit about religious diversity, racial diversity, and it was really interesting to me. Some of our students were really surprised. There are students at that high school who said they had never met someone who was Jewish before. And it's really surprising that in the Washington, D.C. area, so close, right, to Washington, D.C., that we could say that there are children, high school students who have never met anyone who's Jewish. And it brought for our students this understanding of, we may live in a certain bubble, but everyone lives in a certain bubble. So this is a great opportunity to get out of our bubbles and meet people who may be different than us. We've also had a super, super exciting fall athletics season at JDS, and just to hear the success. Our varsity girls tennis team won the league championship. Our varsity girls cross-country team won the league championship, and for the first time ever, the private school state meet. So that was incredible. And at that same meet, our varsity boys also won the state championship. So really an incredible So I hope that you might have signed up for our podcast that we have. We call it the Podcast after the Lions. And this year what I'm doing is going around school, meeting with different educators and asking them about the different things that they do. The first podcast, and you can download it wherever you get your podcast. The first one, I spoke with Sue Rexford, who's our Director of College Guidance, and we talked about the college process at Cambridge. Today we actually recorded the next episode. I met with Dr. Eliana Lipsky, who I think is here. I saw her, and we were talking about a new signature program that we have in the middle school, the Innovation Mini-Mester. So if you want to learn about that and what it is, I hope that you listen to the next podcast. And so now we're going to turn to the rest of our program, and it's really a pleasure for me to introduce Talia Sporkin, who is a senior this year.
Good evening. My name is Talia Sporkin, and I'm a senior at CESJDS. I've been attending JDS since kindergarten, and one of the most valuable aspects of my 13-year-long experience has been my time spent as a member of our school sports teams. While Kehilah is evident in every aspect of JDS life, being part of the athletics teams allows me to feel a more powerful sense of community. Throughout my time in high school, I've had the opportunity to play varsity soccer and basketball all 4 years. As a sophomore, I was selected to be captain of the soccer team, but to my dismay, our season was canceled due to COVID. Even so, practices continued, masked and outside. We were able to continue bonding as a team, even though we had to be 6 feet apart. When it came time for basketball season and we were still not allowed to compete against other schools, our basketball team continued to hold practices. For the first time, I noticed that I was intensely practicing, not just to beat another school in a game, but to improve my own skills, both as an individual player and as well as a teammate. Being part of the soccer and basketball teams has taught me so much that will be important in my life. The importance of communication, teamwork, dedication, as well as a strong work ethic. Whether or not I play sports in college, I know that my time on teams at JDS has made me a more resilient leader, player, and individual. The friendships and lessons learned by being involved with sports teams at CESJDS will have a lifelong impact. Now, it is my privilege to introduce tonight's honoree, Jake Mintz. Jake Mintz, class of 2013, is a baseball writer and podcaster for Fox Sports and SiriusXM. He has covered numerous professional baseball events, including All-Star games, playoffs, and World Series games. When Jake was a senior at CESJDS, he and his friend, Jordan Schusterman, founded a humorous baseball Twitter account called CESJDS Family Barbecue, which now has over 135,000 followers. Their podcasts have been featured on numerous top 10 baseball podcast lists. While at JDS, Jake learned valuable lessons as captain of the Lions baseball team led by Coach Steve Forstieri. He credits Ms. Vasonich and Ms. Davidson's English classes with fostering his love for and appreciation of writing. These experiences led him to his future career. Jake attended Washington University in St. Louis, where he majored in history and Islamic studies. At WashU, Jake's position as pitcher on the school's Division III varsity baseball team earned him the title Jewish All-American by Jewish Sports Review his senior year. Jake currently lives in Harlem, New York with his longtime girlfriend, Tamar Eisen, also 2013 JDS graduate, and spends his free time coaching youth baseball and serving on the board of Harlem Little League. Please join me in welcoming Jake Mintz.
First of all, Talia, thank you so much for the wonderful introduction, and thank you to Wendy Kaplan, of course, for putting on this wonderful event. Let's give her. Thank you also to Rabbi Malkus for having us all here tonight, and a big congratulations to my two other honorees as well. Let's give them. Unfortunately, two of my favorite people could not be here tonight. My parents are not in the audience, but to be honest with you, that is actually kind of fitting in a weird way. Because if my parents had had their way 15 years ago, I never would have gotten the opportunity to stand up here today. And I will explain in 1 second. About halfway through my 8th grade year, my mom and dad decided that for high school, I would leave JDS and attend the Murray School, one of the area's top baseball programs.
But there was one major problem. I did not want to leave. After joining this community in the 7th grade, I built a really close-knit group of friends. Friends who, upon learning that I was planning on going, put together an actual petition of signatures to send to my parents to convince them to let me stay at JDS. Now, believe it or not, the opinions of 50 or so 13-year-olds did not change my parents' minds, and off to Murray I went. Now, thankfully, I had an absolutely horrible time at Murray. I hated it, absolutely hated it. It did not feel like home to me. I missed the comfort and warmth of this community, of this Kiki-La. My parents soon realized how unhappy I really was, and by Halloween of 9th grade, I was back here at JDS. And from that first day that I returned until now, this place has become a core part of my life, both personally and professionally. The classmates who signed that petition are still some of my dearest friends. The teachers, particularly the English teachers, helped encourage my love for writing, and the coaches, my love for baseball. But this school's most important contribution to my life is sitting right here in the front row. On the first day back from my time at Murray, the very first person I ran into right over there in that hallway was Tamar Eisen. At the time, we were just friends. But after a few years of the classic high school will they, won't they, we became a lot more than that. We started dating senior year, went to prom together, and then embarked on a long-distance college relationship that totally worked until it didn't. So it's very uncomfortable that my ex-girlfriend is here in the audience tonight. I'm just kidding. After 3 years apart in college, we reunited in January of 2019 and have been together ever since. We now live in a small town called New York City with a squad of underwater dying plants. If anybody knows how to sing those, please find me after I'm done. Tamar is the single most compassionate person that I've ever known. She is my world, and as we say to one another all the time, I like your values. I'm so honored to have a large chunk of Tamar's family here today. Hi, Bubby. And I know that JDS and Judaism will remain a large part of our lives for a long, long time. So now that I've gotten the meet a nice Jewish girl portion of my speech out of the way, let me tell you a little bit about my professional journey and how my time here at JDS made that all possible. But the first thing you should know is that I have a weird job. A dream job, but a weird job. I watch an unhealthy amount of baseball, sometimes in person, sometimes from the comfort of my couch. I also spend hours in vacant baseball stadiums before and after games, hanging around on the off chance that a millionaire athlete says something somewhat insightful about a sport that matters very little to the benefit of society. Then, I either write or I talk about it, and somehow the direct deposit hits my bank account and allows me to live in New York City. It's amazing! Somehow, this has all gotten me quite a bit further than I ever could have imagined. First, a job at MLB.com out of college, now a writing gig at Fox Sports and a show on SiriusXM's podcast network. This outstanding school has produced doctors, social justice advocates. My wonderful partner, Tamar, works for the Center for Reproductive Rights in New York. Influential diplomats, EMTs, rabbinical scholars, the guy who played SpongeBob on Broadway, Natalie Portman for like a year. All people who have contributed a great deal to making this world a better place. And so I am humbled to stand up here today as what my dad calls a professional minor league joke writer, or as I call it, a baseball writer. My first experience with baseball here at JDS was in the spring of 2009, when I tried out for the varsity high school team as an 8th grader. Now, despite being a literal child at only 5'5" and 120 pounds, I made the team. And a few weeks later, there I was, starting at shortstop on opening day, just months removed from my bar mitzvah, playing against actual adults with beards who drove themselves to games. It was completely inconceivable to me at the time. I was a fish out of water, a kid at the adult table, in way over my head. But my coach at the time, Steve Forestieri, Mr. F, went to great lengths to make sure that I felt like a part of the team. And eventually, my older teammates warmed up to the talented prepubescent twerp playing shortstop, and I got a lot more comfortable. At season's end, we won the league championship. And I know that because the banner's still in there. I checked about an hour ago. So I knew that I'd always liked baseball, but up until that point, the sport had always come easy to me. I never really had to work for it. But on that spring evening, after stomping the dreams out of Sandy Spring Friends School, that was the first time I truly understood that my aspirations in the sport, whether they be on the field or in the press box, were worth working hard for. My love and appreciation for writing also blossomed here at JDS. My 11th grade class with Miss Schaefer, now Miss Davison, stands out as a particularly formative experience. For those of you who don't know, the entire first half of the 11th grade English curriculum was devoted to something called the iSearch. Do they still do the iSearch? 12th grade, okay. The iSearch is a really wonderful project where students can pick any form of media they like, film, TV, music, etc., and write a research paper on it. And so after years of slogging through Shakespeare and To Kill a Mockingbird and other vital bedrocks of Western literature that I did not appreciate or read, the opportunity to critically engage with something that genuinely interested me opened up my mind to a whole new world of possibilities. I ended up writing my iSearch that year about a single episode from my favorite TV show at the time, a hospital-based TV comedy called Scrubs. The episode I wrote on featured the two main characters spending one final revelrous night with a terminally ill patient. My paper centered around the idea of gallows humor, how levity operates in a hospital setting, and why joy is such an essential part of the human experience. But most importantly, I loved the process, the research, the editing, the feedback, the intense attention around every word, every sentence. I vividly remember spending multiple lunch periods poring over revisions. The whole thing was so fulfilling, so fun, and worthwhile. It didn't even feel like school. Looking back, that iSearch experience, the chance to pour my heart into something that felt authentic and relevant to me, was absolutely fundamental in pushing me towards my career today. If my 11th grade teacher was cool with me writing a big paper on a TV show, then yeah, I could write about baseball for a living, why not? Now, if you haven't noticed already, I'm not exactly a straight-laced kind of guy. Some people have even called me a goofball. In fact, one of my proudest moments here at JDS was getting voted class clown in the senior yearbook. Me and my fellow class clown, to commemorate that honor, went into Miss Landy's office and took selfies on her desk with those glasses where the mustache hangs down from the bottom. Now, I don't know if you ever knew about that or found out, Miss Landy. If you did, you didn't say anything, and I'm very thankful for that. That entire episode is very emblematic of much of my time here at JDS, and I am so thankful that this place taught me to channel my powers as a doofus for good. In 8th grade, I was getting detention for dancing on tables. In 11th grade, I was school president. Yes, that is a testament to the powers of Adderall, but also, it's amazing, it'll change your life. But also to the dedication, patience, and vision of the teachers and administrators here at the school. Miss Landy, Mr. Buckley, Mr. F., Miss Vasanich, Dr. Solomon, Miss Schaefer, Mrs. Ball, and countless others. They saw the best in me, even though I was still a total knucklehead, and helped mold me into the slightly less knuckleheaded person I am today. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before I hand the podium over is how this place helped shape my Jewish identity. When you're a student here, it can be difficult at times to understand how your own Jewishness interacts with the outside world, a little bit like what Rabbi Malkus talked about. All my friends were Jewish. All their friends were Jewish. All my parents' friends were Jewish. All their friends were Jewish. So it was really hard at the time to conceive of anything beyond this world. Only once I left here to go to college at Washington University in St. Louis did I truly realize how prepared I was to act as a responsible ambassador for the contemporary Jewish community, especially in non-Jewish spaces. And let me tell you, as a college athlete in the Midwest, and then a baseball reporter in MLB locker rooms, I have spent a lot of time being the Jewish guy. Now, thanks in part to my time here at JDS, That's something I've always been comfortable with, something I've always carried very proudly. In college, when we played games on Passover, I would bring matzah into the dugout and pass it out to my non-Jewish teammates. At a college teammate's wedding over the summer, Tamar and I instructed everyone on how to properly do the hora. It's about using your legs. That's the biggest thing. And now, as a baseball writer, I find myself in regular conversation with non-Jewish players who are curious about my culture and my religion. Those discussions run the gamut, from breaking down Jewish stereotypes to explaining that the language is Hebrew and not Hebrewish. In my 27 years on this planet, I have been incredibly fortunate. I have been absurdly lucky. I was born to a pair of caring and interesting parents. I was blessed with the opportunity to make a game my job and my life. And most relevant of all, I had the chance to be a student here at JDS, twice. This school continues to impact and influence my life and my world every day. From the volunteer coaching work I do in New York City, to the joyful baseball writing I do at stadiums across the country, to the person who I get to make coffee for every morning, this school has left a lasting and undeniable pressure on me and will have for the rest of my life. And most of all, I take immense pride in knowing that in the years and decades to come, this very special place will continue to develop unique, compassionate, proud members of the American Jewish community. Thank you all so, so much.
And we are both seniors at JDS and are the current editors-in-chief of the Lionsdale student newspaper. Throughout our time on the newspaper, we've had the opportunity to see both articles and entire print issues put together from start to finish and deal with all the issues that arose along the way. We have both served as reporters and editors on the Lionsdale for more than 3 years, starting in the same journalism 1 class in 9th grade. As we've grown through our years on the Lionsdale, we have learned 2 distinct things. The first is the community of editors the paper has nurtured. Those bonds created on the Lionsdale allow for a seamless editing and design process. No matter who is writing an article or taking part in the Lionsdale, they are welcomed in graciously. We have also learned that nothing is impossible. Posting articles 5 days a week, 36 weeks a year, while also producing our news magazine may be a daunting task, but with hard work, dedication, and the help of our amazing section editors, we like to believe that anything is possible.
Not only have we learned a tremendous amount from our time on the Lionsdale, but it has also provided us with important skills that we will bring into our future endeavors. Whether we decide to pursue journalism or focus on another career, we will have solidified critical skills, such as streamlined communication, time management, problem solving, and patience. The Lionsdale has proven to be one of the most valuable experiences of our high school career, and we could not be more grateful for all it has given us. It is our distinct honor to introduce Emily Bobrow. Emily lives in New York with her husband and 3 kids. She works as a staff reporter for the Wall Street Journal, where she writes the weekly profile column Weekend Confidential, covering innovators and leaders in all areas of life, including business, government, sports, science, religion, and the arts. From 2000 to 2015, she worked at The Economist as a staff editor and writer. As we approach the end of our JDS careers, we hope to practice the values instilled in us by our teachers and community here at JDS. Just like how Mrs. Barbara credits JDS for instilling in her the values of hard work and a love of learning, we hope to do so as well. Please welcome Emily Bobrow.
Wow, thank you. That was so nice. And Jake, you spoke so beautifully. And this is such an honor. And I can't believe I get to share a stage with Mr. Miller. And I'm just as I've gotten older, I've become only more humbled by the work of teachers. And particularly those that make tricky concepts and new ideas feel real, tangible, and alive. And Back when I was a student here, long time ago, Mr. Miller's science classes were the stuff of legend. And I think it takes a certain kind of strength to skillfully guide a room full of smelly, pubescent teenagers through the dissection of a cat. I'm so thankful so many JDS students have had the chance to learn with you. It means so much to be back here with all of you, but I'll admit it's strange to be the object of attention. As a journalist, it's my job to shine a light on other people and to talk about their lives and their stories, to try to tell their stories. It's startling and also a real honor to think that anyone might be interested in mine, so thank you. My job for the past few years has been to write about remarkable people for the Wall Street Journal. Now that I have small children, kindly, I will say I've been eager to put them on the right track for rewarding, fulfilling lives. So it's been really handy to be able to help various accomplished writers, and scientists, and athletes, and activists with the kind of questions that might help me reverse engineer my children's success. So I've done enough of these now to notice a pattern. Most of the people I interview have had loving, supportive parents. Not perfect parents, but encouraging ones. This is a leg up I certainly know from experience. I would not be here today as a person, obviously, but also as the person that I am, were it not for the love and support of my own parents. Unfortunately, they couldn't be here tonight because my beloved grandmother passed away last night. She died very peacefully, surrounded by people she loves, on the eve of her 103rd birthday, which is amazing and a blessing. So my parents are there, of course. But I have to say, my parents deserve most of the credit for raising me in a home that prized grit, Menschlichkeit, and Stärke. My sisters and I never needed to be the best, which was helpful because we never were the best, or contenders. And I'll say along these lines, it's really remarkable, especially with hindsight, how often my mother came to watch me play basketball, which really meant warming the bench. I'll say that my parents really just expected us to try hard. Am I not talking? Okay. To try hard, behave generously, and look out for each other. And as Jews, they raised us to believe that we were part of something that was much larger, much deeper, and much richer than ourselves. This leads to another common denominator of many of the people I've profiled. Most of them also talk about teachers, or teachers who help them feel special, or who open their eyes and open their minds at a really important time. And here too, I can relate. I feel so fortunate that my parents made the investment to send me to JDS. It was such a privilege to come of age in a place where the objective wasn't merely to be good at math, or to be good at writing, or to be good at reading. It was to be good. It was to be a match. I think something really special happens in a place where you start every day giving thanks for the wonders of the world and the gifts that we might otherwise take for granted. We learned here at JDS that everyone has a role to play, whether you're leading a service, raising a Torah, or singing from the pews. We learned that earning a diploma takes more than solving for X or understanding Miss Havisham's neuroses. To graduate, we also had to learn how to serve each other and the larger community beyond these walls. Years out, I'm not sure I could tell you what a coefficient is, but I can say that the lessons of Tikkun Olam continue to inform my life, my choices, and my approach to the world. I've also noticed that whenever I see my peers from JDS, it feels like a family reunion. I think it's because we all got to see up close how time can redeem people. How the kid who ate his boogers in 2nd grade could become the teen with a near-perfect SAT score and then the doting father with booger-eating children. I think it's incredibly helpful to go through every awkward stage of our young lives, and I mean every awkward stage, which for some of us was very long, like maybe one long awkward stage, in the company of people from families with shared values and shared priorities, and in the care of teachers who had the wisdom to prioritize righteousness over cleverness. The thing about a good teacher is that some of their lessons take years to bloom. I will say that I knew at the time that Sue Zuckerman was passionate, attentive, warm, and wise. But it took time to really absorb everything she imparted. In college, many of my term papers were barnacled with heavy, fancy words, as I was still under the misconception that big ideas needed big, ornate sentences. I remember eagerly asking my mother what she thought of one of my papers, and she looked at me with pain in her eyes and said, "Emily, I'm still making my way through the first paragraph." It was only when I began writing for my college newspaper that I remembered a phrase Ms. Zuckerman had tacked to her bulletin board. Sesquipedalianism obfuscates pellucidity. Large words confuse clarity. It was a perfect Zuckerman lesson for the way it used humor and an example to convey an essential point about language, but also about life and the perils of pretensions, and it's one I've taken to heart. While I'm here, I'm going to tell another Zuckerman story. This is another one that I've kept in my back pocket. In a class she taught about journalism, she had a JDS graduate talk about his experiences in a newsroom, which was really exciting for us, and we were all invited to ask him questions. This graduate was a quadriplegic. He was confined to a wheelchair that he moved with his chin, but we were all too nervous, too polite to ask him anything about his disability or how it affected his work. And at the end of the exchange, Ms. Zuckerman came to the front of the class and she looked at all of us in the eyes and said, "You failed. You failed. How could you not ask the question that you're all wondering?" And it was so powerful, and it really taught me that sometimes the right question is the hard question, is the uncomfortable question, and that people will tell you what they're ready to share as long as you are ready to listen. Although my work puts me in touch with all varieties of accomplishment, I have to say the most valuable lesson I've learned about success was the one I got at home. I'll just preface this by saying that I don't think I was a natural writer. I'm sure there are plenty of teachers who are a little surprised to learn that I'm writing coherently and on deadline. Honestly, there are times when I'm a little surprised when I'm writing coherently and on deadline. And super duper honestly, sometimes I still miss my deadlines. But I will say, I think it can be really discouraging at any age, and especially as a kid, when things don't come easily or obviously. But I was lucky because I always had the example of my father. Some of you may know him as a leading orthopedic surgeon in the region, but I'm not sure any of you know that he was rejected from every single medical school he applied to in the US. This didn't deter him. He ended up going to a medical school in Italy where it took him 8 hours to translate the first page of his first textbook. He kept at it, transferred to SUNY Buffalo, and then came to this area as a resident at Georgetown. Growing up, I saw him work long hours at the hospital and then long hours at home, followed by, and also he would often be up late into the night preparing if he had a complicated case the next day. From my father, I learned that it's not silly to dream big as long as you don't mind working hard. And from both parents, I've learned that even the most ideal job isn't enough if you're not also working at what you have at home. On that note, I'll say that as a very, very late bloomer who didn't understand the value of hair gel until I was well into my 20s, I feel so grateful to have finally found my Michelle. it's clear how formative my time at JDS was, and just what an honor it is for me to be here before you now. Thanks so much for releasing into the world generations of students who understand that it's our job to do what we can to make it a better place. So, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Aaron Brickman, least accomplished person you're going to hear from today. But also a graduate of the CESJDS class of 1991. My wife Ann and I have 2 children here at the school and 1 recent grad, Aviva, class of 22, Dahlia, grade 11, and Micah, grade 8. I'm thrilled to be with you this evening as we honor Nick Miller, Mr. Miller, who has been a teacher at JDS since 1985. I know something about him because I was a student in the very first class he taught here. In the years since coming to JDS, Mr. Miller has taught middle and high school, mostly science, but also comparative religion, Greek, and Latin, and he was a founding faculty advisor to the Sephardic Minyan. It's common to hear former students of his say that he's instilled in them a love of science and learning and a respect for people, that he's ingrained in them the confidence to succeed and strengthen their connection to Judaism. I'm thankful that all my kids have had Mr. Miller as a teacher and that he hasn't changed over time. I recall a much younger Mr. Miller in 7th grade. He seemed like a strict disciplinarian, almost a stereotype of what I was led to believe the upper school was going to be. He definitely ended up disciplining me quite a bit, but he had a softer side as well, passionately believing that all kids in his classes needed at least a touch of learning in important topics such as Appalachian community life, ancient Greek, cursive script, elocution, enunciation, primitive societies, Latin, the mating habits of different mammals, or posture. One of my favorite memories of Mr. Miller's classes was accessing his books of graphic photos of human oddities and rare deformities and talking through the meaning of or probability of occurrence and rate. Why didn't these people get those things removed? He could speak with authority, it seemed, on almost any topic. He would tell you if he couldn't, and then let you know which teacher could help. He took an interest in all of us on a personal level. He was very effective at connecting with students. He made a lasting impression through his teaching. I can remember one class, not sure which year, he took us all to the zoo by Metro. He insisted we bring Sidurim to pray with inside the zoo, or the trip wouldn't happen. Priorities. It was that same trip to the zoo where Mr. Miller was pleasantly surprised and excited to see it was perfect timing to witness the kangaroo mating spectacle. We all got a lot out of that visit. A few classmates reached out with memories. Dan Frisch remembers the tefillah choir that Mr. Miller set up in the mornings as an alternative to the standard option. Dan said, "That was the best time I ever had praying and singing. He got us to sing without fear or embarrassment and to feel the spirit. It was a special and a fond memory." Aaron Drazen was also in Mr. Miller's very first class at JDS with me. He remembers Mr. Miller as an anchor point during his time at JDS. He was always friendly when I would see him in the halls, he said, giving a hello and asking how things were going. He's not just a teacher, but a mensch in my eyes. Chuck Fox shared that, "I worked in a lab at NIH. Mr. Miller invited me to his class to give a brief lecture on my research project. The Lion's Tale even did a story about it. It was so kind and generous for him to let me do that." Emily Waldman-Ebner shared that Mr. Miller taught with passion demonstrated through physicality. It was a full-body expression of commitment. When he was lecturing to the class, he threw all of himself into it. Dynamic being an understatement. He was very serious about taking time to educate us about real things happening in the world, like the AIDS crisis, which was new and confusing and scary for kids. Karen Bromberg remembers Mr. Miller would always have a roll of toilet paper with him, instead of tissues, because toilet paper was cheaper than tissue.
For me, Mr. Miller is without question my favorite teacher of all time at any level, and the teacher who's had the greatest impact on me. I can't imagine any student has gone through a class with him without carrying a memory or two with them forever. During college and after, when I'd periodically come visit the school, I'd head to his classroom, lurking outside his door until he would notice and invite me in to regale the students with a story about ancient history, what it was like when I was a student. One last memory. I was volunteering on abortion clinic defense in downtown DC during college, very early one cold winter morning. Mr. Miller happened to walk past, recognized me, and said hello, and then saw I wasn't wearing a jacket and offered me the one he was wearing. My college friends were amazed, but I wasn't surprised. That's who he's always been. Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Mr. Miller, thank you for all you've given me, my children, and thousands of other JDS students over so many years. We're better human beings because of you, your teaching, your compassion, and your dedication to us and our school community. Please welcome Mr. Miller.
The nurse now gives out small boxes of tissues. Teachers don't have to do that anymore. So just, thank you very much, Erin. I remember Erin very well, actually. I taught him 3 times. I've taught his and Ann's children as well. And thank you for your kind words and some memories that I not remembered. I must say that I feel this honor goes to all the faculty and all the administrators and workers who make JDS possible. I'm here on behalf of my colleagues and to honor them. How did I come to work at JDS? A friend of mine was dating, Mari Israel, was dating Elizabeth Beckwith, the Latin teacher. I was teaching Latin and Greek at 2 different schools and had another full-time job as well. So I became Latin sub at JDS. I did not know it, but I was being observed by Madame Graff, and I never called her anything other than Madame. Chair of Romance Languages Department. When a new hire quit on the Thursday before the beginning of classes on the following Tuesday, Elizabeth called me, asked me if I was interested, and gave me the phone number of Laura Jacobs, chair of the science department. I called her on Friday. She interviewed me on Sunday at Bagel City. I'd never met anyone who made so many puns. At the end of the interview, I was unsure whether I was hired or not. I called her later to confirm, and on Monday was interviewed by Shalomit Elster. That was an experience. I vividly remember entering her office, sit here, and seeing over her heart, right here, a huge badge, like this big. And it said, blue on white, "We are all Zionists." I made a prayer. I've got to work for her. I have to. And I did. She possessed the most remarkable drive and verve and memory. Shortly before her passing, a package appeared in my mailbox. It was her father's Greek grammar from seminary. Somehow, she knew I was teaching Greek club here, remembered I taught Greek and Latin years before, and gave me one of the greatest treasures of my library. What's so special about the JDS community? Sephardic Minyan is a microcosm of how that community works. It was the brainchild and vision of Sami Tota, some of you might know him. He got us prayer books, retained Cantor Roman Tassat to be with us for a year, and arranged the loan of a beautiful Sefer Torah from Sammy Imar, American Reprographics, up the street. One of the awesome aspects of the Minyan is the incredible tangible support of the community. Eliran Asarov built the Aron as a senior. His father and brothers built the Shulchan and most of the Mechitzot. He visited the minyan. We had a milk crate with a shmata over it. He goes, what do you call this? What do you call this? He left and brought us most of our furniture. But a large brown cabinet that we still have was built by Mark Levy, Joel Rogozinski, and John Stahl. The talit rack by Michael Rosenberg. The Persian rug, which our Kohanim used to duchen on, was a gift of the Gershonborns. Sidurim had been donated several times by Magen David through the good offices of the Shimoni family, the Totas, and Sami Imar. Our Mapah was also from Sami, who has loaned us our Sefer Torah for many years. Our Yad was crafted by Mr. Masika, a jeweler in the community. Some of you might have bought diamonds from him. What are some memories of JDS? The Yad reminds me of one of those moments when you wish you had a camera. So we had David Masika, it's about this tall, 7th grade, but he wanted to read Torah. He read Torah before his bar mitzvah. So the shulchan is high, he could barely see over it. He was so short. He did a beautiful job. And when he was finished, everyone clapped and cheered. And Nathan Gershonborn came up and lifted him bodily over his head, like Papa. The kid, the talit, the yad, which is a huge silver yad. And he said, look, Mr. Miller, this is just like the Torah, just like the Torah. And the other boys came up and hit him with their tzitzit and said, just like the Torah, just like the Torah. Another memory is the joyful, muddy chaos that used to happen in back on Friday after school for football games, but only if it rained. It had to rain, it had to be utterly miserable, and they would play football. What's it like to work here? One of the greatest things about working here is how we help each other. You students, we talk about you all the time. You don't know that, but we do. We also talk about our craft, and certainly this is true of my base and my firm foundation, which is the science department, always. I continue to learn from all my colleagues, the new as well as the experienced, all departments, all divisions. Lauren Jacobs was my first and best mentor. And I'm also grateful to Madame Graf for not only vetting me, but for some very memorable conversations. This is a quote from her. We do not just teach subjects here. We are transmitting a civilization. Unquote. I've never forgotten it. You are transmitting a civilization. And the admin team, who seemingly never sleep. The emails that come from them about something that's going to happen 2 weeks from now at 2 o'clock in the morning. I thank them all in the name of the Mother Superior of the Jewish Day School, Mrs. Landy. The Reverend Mother. I just found out that she's following a BBC movie where there's nuns and Mother Superiors. Just found out. And then there are the amazing people, especially the engineering staff, known and unknown, the people who pay the bills, keep us safe, keep the heat on, keep the place clean, and do all the silent, invisible, foundational things that make our work possible. Why so long? Part of the reason is being part of a project and community that started over 50 years ago that will go into the future for many generations. Down the road is Georgetown Prep, a school which is also faith and community-based, also a minority religion, especially in 1789, which is when they founded it. Can you imagine us in 234 years? Think of the merit for educating over 2 centuries of Jewish children. I also like the openness of the school to the whole community. The growing web, I was looking for a stronger word. I can't find it. It's everywhere. It's in Israel, it's here, it's in France. Everywhere you can find JDS grads and people connected to our school. I learn a lot here. The craft of teaching Torah, from sometimes eavesdropping on Rabbi Slater talking to a kid around the corner who doesn't know. I've actually done that. complexity of the world, Russian Jews, Kurds, Poles, Hungarians, Libyans, Italians, Greeks, Persians, Litvaks, it's like fractals. What does JDS give its students? As I look back, I see that repetitio mater memoriae, the first advice, some of you remember, of my first Latin teacher is the beginning of wisdom. The first learning is how to learn. If students know how to work hard and smart, they can do anything. I will never forget, at a security conference, a JDS mom who said this: I always knew I wanted to be a doctor, but science was challenging for me. JDS taught me how to meet that challenge and achieve that desire. She's been a pediatrician for many years. There are two famous proverbs. Fortuna, juvat, mentem, paratum. Chance favors the prepared mind. And another, Fortuna est quae fit cum preparatio in occasionem incidit. Luck is the intersection of preparation and opportunity. We prepare the minds, and in this school, hopefully also the souls of our students, for the opportunities and tasks that Hashem will send their way. Why do I participate without fail in my life? JDS has been the major focus of my professional life to this point. It's played no small role in my life outside of school. I love the tour aspects. It's fun. Tonight I learned always look at bylines, because I had been reading and watching their stuff, and I hadn't connected them with Jewish Day School. Also, Abigail Krauser, and that embarrasses me, but it's a great joy to us to watch what you do and to watch you move through the world. My role in the great JDS project is to teach. Mayan is a symbol to me of all of us, whatever our roles, uniting in one single way, hallowed by tradition, the giving of tzedakah. Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz, just before he died, they started calling him Ben Yisrael, Rock of Israel, teaches us that all humans are capable of creating angels. That every time we pray or observe a mitzvah, or give tzedakah, or perform an act of chesed, or rachmanas, or forbearance, we create small angels and they ascend to the presence of Hashem. May those angels ascend, and may the merit of this work which we do here sustain us and the work of our school for many years to come. Amen.
Welcome again to Mr. Miller, Emily, Jake. My name is Stacy Schlachtis. I'm the Vice President of the CESJDS Board of Directors. I'm also an alumna of the class of 1987, and I am a very proud Hag Shema parent, which means I'm an alum who also has children who have attended the school. My oldest, Ari, graduated with the class of 2020. My daughter, Shelby, graduated with the class of 2021. My son, Daniel, over here, is an 11th grader. And my youngest, Kobe, is in 9th grade. I'm always so inspired by our alum, and again this year, you guys remind us that we talk often about the portrait of a graduate, but you're not a portrait. You're so dynamic and constantly changing and bringing all of your gifts to the world, and then lucky for us, back to our community as well. So thank you for your unique and most remarkable gifts, and we would like to present you with some thank you gifts as well tonight. Firstly, to our dynamic and lovely co-chairs, Jeremy and Rachel Platt. All of these gifts are photographs taken by our students here at JDS as part of our photography program. And this first one is, do I not know? sure I have the one for the flags. So I apologize.
Is this amazing?
Yes, it's this beautiful one, you know. I'm sorry.
Ari Howe is the student, and it's a landscape assignment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was taken about a couple weeks ago, so it was one of my landscapes.
Beautiful, you'll always remember the time of year. Okay, the next one I'd like to present to you, Jake. Jake, you are so charming. On Adderall or off, I'm not sure. You give me great hope for my 3 boys at JDS. And this one is very special for you, obviously another student who is just as enamored with baseball. This is titled The Baseball Glove by Zach Singerman, grade 12. And the project asked the students to capture personal items that were filled with memories and most treasured by them. So it looks like you share a love of baseball with Zach Singerman, and I hope you appreciate this piece of work.
Thank you so much.
Okay, next, Emily, we'd love to present you with a painting by Malka Letterman titled Autumn Landscape. Malka saw this beautiful landscape and wanted to photograph it, and it's just, you know, that she really captured the contrast of colors and the beauty of the season, and you have captured our hearts tonight, really, and you've really mastered the air show. And also that comment about the parents being loving and not so perfect also gives me hope. All right, and lastly, Mr. Miller. What a pleasure, 3 decades. Not just little Aaron Brickman, but the boys in my class of 1987 all have very fond memories of you. And it is so joyful as a parent to be back here with my own children who have benefited so much from having you as their teacher and a mentor and a friend in the halls. It's just really meant so much to our family, and we really treasure you. Thank you so much. And for those of you who don't know, it takes a village to make a Mr. Miller. I'll be the first to tell you that, but we are so proud, and it's honored to have you as part of our village and helping us raise our children today. So thank you very much. This photo is I saw it, I was really moved by it. The assignment was to capture the essence of your teacher. And Maddie Polonsky, grade 11, chose Mr. Miller. And boy, did she capture the essence of Mr. Miller. I want to make sure everyone can see this. I believe this is you, Mr. Miller, in your starting
I think so, yeah.
minion.
And my brothers.
There you go. Mr. Miller is leaning over
On the Sidor.
Sidor with his mouth open. Really, as one of our students, but to me it caught the essence of Mr. Miller and your love of Torah and your love of learning and teaching.
And talking.
And talking. You know what, Mr. Miller, we read Torah over and over every year.
We do.
Okay?
Yeah.
And every year we're taught to learn something new from it, right? Just as we do with you year after year after year. Thank you so much.